Hey, everybody. Welcome into the Lettermen Lounge. This is Lettermen Live, brought to you by Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint, and there's nowhere else you'd rather be on a Monday than in Columbus, Ohio, after that Sugar Bowl. An absolute domination by the number 11 Warriors, brave and bold.
That's what we expected, right?
49-28 over Clemson. Congratulations to Dabo Swinney for setting up the Buckeyes for success and sending them on to the national title game. That's Doug Worthington, Craig Krenzel, Justin Zwick, Michael Bennett, Nicole Cox. I am Austin Ward. We'll have Schlegel in here for his take a little bit later on, and he'll probably have about 10 or 15 minutes of coverage for you to come uninterrupted. So we'll get it started without him. That was an absolutely dominant performance. Just what we all predicted last week, right, Mike?
Yeah, I think all of us talked about it. We were going to need a complete game from the Buckeyes, and I think that was the first one we saw of the season. You saw the defense flying around. There was an obvious difference in the physicality of the teams. You saw the offense firing on all cylinders. You know, Justin Fields was killing it. Trey Sermon was killing it. The offensive line looked incredible. I mean, I don't think you could hope for something better as a Buckeye fan than to see this team start to peak at this time.
Nicole, I know you've got 7 or 8 pages of notes. Friday night.
Comes prepared.
That had to be – it was great to be in the Dome on Friday night for it, to watch from home and fill out those notes. So how impressed were you with what you saw?
I took so many notes because there were so many things to write about.
Yes,
I mean, like you said, Michael, it was a complete game where everyone played very well. We all played together, and it was just so exciting to watch.
I love it. I like the fact just being in the Mercedes-Benz Dome. We play well in the Dome. I actually lost a national championship in that Dome against LSU. But to see like that Arkansas win when it come down to beating SEC, even though it was Arkansas, the fact that we got a national big win against Alabama in 2014, and then we did our thing against the good old Clemson foe.
It turned out pretty well the last time Ohio State won a college football playoff semifinal in the Sugar Bowl. Michael knows a thing or two about that. I don't know. Craig, we talked about it last week, and Justin had to be great and full team effort, but we weren't sure, how they would match up against Alabama. I thought the team that we saw on Friday night could beat anybody in the country on any night.
I mean, no question. No question. I agree with that completely. You know, what I loved about it is when we talked about, hey, who needs to play well, Michael talked about Haskell Garrett and those guys in the middle on that defensive line. And when you look, trenches in general, offensive and defensive lines for Ohio State were incredible. Trey Sermon getting behind them had obviously another great game, and we love what we're seeing from him. When I look at that football game, we have the athletes to play with anybody.
That's good.
When our guys play like they did, when I watch that football game, the first word that pops into my mind, and maybe it's watching Justin Fields take that shot, go into the tent. We all know what probably happened in that tent at halftime, and I've been there, done that. Yeah. But toughness, right? You look at that football team, and we got the athletes, I think, to run with anybody.
Yeah.
We're going to have some challenges on Monday, don't get me wrong. Most notably, I think they're perimeter guys against our secondary. But for the most part, we have the athletes to run with anybody. And when we play to that level of toughness and physicality, we can beat anybody in the country. And that, to me, if we can bring it one more time, I think Monday is going to be a great game to watch.
Well, that's why leading up to the whole thing, Dabo, for the last couple of weeks anyways, we had said there's one team he doesn't want to play, and that's the Ohio State Buckeyes. He can run his mouth about our schedule and how many games we played, this, that, and the other, but he knew coming into this season, year after year, Ohio State has the athletes to play with those guys down south. And, we said it, you got to put a full game together, and they did, man. And what a special team this can be when they put a full game together. And I think being in that playoff, having a reason, I don't want to say reason because it makes it, they always play hard, but knowing that, man, if we finish this off, we get that shot at that national championship. I think that helped, and I think that just kind of carried them through the rest of that game.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I think Ohio State won by the smallest margin that it could, which is crazy. They were so much better than Clemson. That 21 points barely even tells the story. So there's about 50 different options that we can start with for Buckeye leaves this week. We probably shouldn't double up because we could cover the entire roster. Nicole's going to lead the way. I know she's been torn too with about 20 different players.
I have, and I just wanted to say, after the game, I just was like, what was Dabo thinking saying that, ranking us? Because truly, he had to have known that we are dangerous when we are not favored to win, and it just adds fuel to our drive. And we saw that at the on Friday, so it was great.
A couple of those guys that Michael was talking about, Haskell Garrett and Jonathan Cooper, grabbed one of those whiteboards from Larry Johnson and wrote ranked 11 question mark.
People hear that stuff, man.
Everybody knew it. Like
and for whatever his reasoning was, which he had a reason, I didn't put anybody above. It just doesn't matter because all anybody's going to focus on, right, going into that, once you say it, is 11th, and that's all that happened. And even though he probably didn't mean to give that fuel, it just you got to be smarter and realize that is exactly what's going to happen. But we took advantage of it.
So is that who gets your Buckeye leaf?
Sorry, guys.
Put in a sticker on
Dabo? Yeah, because if not, I might give it to you.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You're thinking outside the box. I like it.
Yeah,
I like
guys, sorry. I
That's
just went all over the place
That's
here.
why Nicole is here.
Yeah,
That's right.
But no, so I felt like both, the offense and defense played phenomenal. You know, it was exciting to see for offense, just to see some action from the tight ends like Luke Farrell and Jeremy Ruckert, combined for 5 receptions for 66 yards and 3 touchdowns in the game was unreal. Like, it was just exciting to see that. So, but I am going to give my Buckeye leave to Tyreek Smith with the 3 tackles, and it wasn't an official sack, but the sack at the end with Trevor Lawrence truly was kind of the closeout of the game, and the pressure that they kept on Trevor Lawrence was. I mean, you could tell it mentally started to affect, Trevor. It was just
he's not used to getting hit like he was getting hit.
And you could see him start to get scared, and the confidence. You could just see their confidence just dwindle away. So, Tyreek Smith was phenomenal. I was very impressed with him.
Tyreek Smith, one thing that he did as well is he lined up outside at times, and then when it came down to put Browning on the outside and came inside, and he rushed right up the middle and just had Trevor Lawrence just kind of out of his wits. I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes down to being on the floor like 12 to 15 times throughout the game, that takes a toll on a guy like Trevor Lawrence. I mean, as great as he was, still 400 yards in the air, that was good. That's what he's going to do. He's on scholarship as well. But I think that Tyreek Smith was a great Buckeye leaf. I loved him and what the rest of the Buckeye defensive line was able to do.
I feel like I remember last year after the game, maybe Clemson players talking about how physical that game was, right?
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, Justin Lawrence is getting hit again like that. The first couple plays of the game, and he's probably thinking to himself,
Here we go
boy,
again.
Here we go again. These guys are back, and they're more physical this year, and they kept after him, which was great.
And that's why you rarely see this where Ohio State named, 4 co-defensive players of the game: Jonathan Cooper, Tyreek Smith, Haskell Garrett, Tommy Togiai.
Oh my God!
And they had to play way more snaps than Larry Johnson would want them to, because Tyler Friday was unavailable, Zach Harrison was unavailable, and in a big game like that, you tend to try and shrink the rotation. But Michael, you've been a part of this. Like, he just wants to rotate, but he let those guys go, and they looked so fresh on that fourth quarter drive that Nicole was talking about to put the game away. Looked like it was the first quarter. You don't have to pick the defensive line. Doug, you don't either. But I
like to talk about them, though. That was great.
They were
I love to talk
phenomenal.
about my guys.
They were so good in that game.
Well, I appreciate you freeing me from the shackles of picking
Don't
a
have
defensive line. But I'm going to pick a defensive lineman, and I'm going to pick specifically one, not necessarily because of their standout performance, but I think everybody here should pick a defensive lineman.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm going to pick Tommy Togiai. Tommy's been just an anchor for that defensive line all season, and him and Haskell Garrett's presence in the middle is what allows those ends and Baron Browning to heat it up off the edge and get pressure. If Trevor Lawrence could step up, then he would. But with Tommy and Haskell pushing that pocket, getting pressure, stopping the run, I mean, they've been forces all season long, and nothing changed against Clemson. It's really exciting. I know Doug feels the same way.
Oh my God.
It's really exciting to see good defensive tackle play, because that's a tough position. And when you go to those better teams, like against Clemson's or Alabama's, it gets even tougher. And Clemson's going to try to misdirect. They're going to try to mess you up. So to see those guys stay at home, they were retracing on screens. They were just a huge part of that win. It was really exciting to see.
I love it. I mean, I'm going to hit on that because I'm a defensive lineman. I can't take him, but I want to just – you're right? There's so many things that doesn't show on the stat sheet when it comes down to even playing the zone block right and not letting that guard just cave you down. So that defensive end doesn't have a bunch of areas to play.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where, again, you're not going to see it, but it's recognized by the players. Those guys were locked in like nothing else. As I didn't get a chance to talk about it, but, I mean, Dabo at the end of the game, after the game, didn't give credit. I think him being a God-fearing man as much as he is, he could have definitely took credit for that bulletin board material that he gave us. Like, at the end of the day, we didn't need any extra motivation, but the fact that you're going to rank us 11th after you beat us last year and not want that rematch, like, let us get our work. We knew that we were the better team last year, and just the fact that every phase of the game, and let's talk about special teams. He's not my Buckeye leaf. 21 Williams, a kid from Columbus, Ohio, made tackle after tackle, inside the 20. So it was just one of those games that was phenomenal to watch and just be a part of. It was beautiful.
Jay-Z.
I'm going with the Justins. I've really enjoyed watching Justin Hilliard here the last few games. I think he's really stepped his game up. For a guy who's been here for, I feel like 7-8 years, who always seemed to have something happen and something next year, injuries and this and that. I think he's just played outstanding, and I think he didn't have the most stats or whatever in that game, but he made a few plays where it's like there he is again. He just in these last few games, I just felt like I kept seeing him make that play that maybe we hadn't seen out of him before. So I'm going him, but then gosh, and it is what it is. Six touchdowns, almost 400 yards passing.
You can't argue with that.
Going out of the game, taking that shot that he took. I would like to see him make that guy miss. I think he's a little bit better of an athlete instead of just turning into it. But the toughness that we've seen from him since he's been here. Last year in Michigan game, tent comes back out, touchdown.
That's good.
This year, hit tent comes back out, touchdown. Fighting through that. And as a quarterback, that's all you really can do to your guys, to show your guys that you're with them, because you're not one that's hitting people. You're not. When you get hit, you get back up, because they're getting hit every play. So you show that, and you become part of that offensive unit even more when that is happening, and when they know they can trust you to do that. So I think just everything. From all his throws that he made to the runs to just the leadership to the toughness, man, what an outstanding, maybe the best performance by a quarterback in Ohio State history. Am I crazy for saying that?
No. And I think I was thinking about it on Friday night, just like, the goosebumps, comparing it to coming out of the tent in the game in Ann Arbor last year.
Mm-hmm.
That was his Heisman moment. That clinched the trip. And I thought I'd never see anything like that again, because you had, 5-6 plays of panic. Is Ohio State going to reach its potential? And then he trots out, goes right on the field, rolls out back. Okay, no way you're ever going to do that again. The circumstances won't align. And then you're in a national semifinal, one of the most vicious illegal shots that you could ever take.
Right.
You know what you have to do in that. He's not even out for a full drive.
Yeah.
Comes back in. He's wincing in pain, rolling out to his right. The ball kind of flutters out. It was maybe the worst throw that's ever come out of his hands at Ohio State, but it's still right on the money. Chris Olave scores for a touchdown. He's done this twice in his career. It's you guys know how hard it is what he did. It's incredible.
Yeah, you go. I probably took yours, but
No, I don't care. Even if you're healthy, if you play a full game at the quarterback position and have as many touchdown passes as you do incompletions, I don't care what the numbers look like. I don't care if it's 2 and 2. I don't care if it's 8 and 8.
Right? Yeah.
It doesn't matter. 10 and 10. Yeah. 6 touchdowns, 6 incompletions, and then you throw the shot on top of that. It's just you can't have a better performance. You can't expect a better performance. And what I loved about Justin Fields' play was he was the question mark going into that game.
Right.
Everybody said, "Well, what's wrong with Justin Fields? What's wrong with Justin Fields?" So once again, credit to the guys up front. The quarterback in me always says,
doubt, yeah.
Justin Fields couldn't do what he did. He had some good time back there. He had some good pockets to move around, throw the football. I liked the game plan. Obviously, a nice run-pass blend. Put him on the move a little bit here and there. You talk about the touchdown after he comes back in after being hurt. Move the pocket a little bit. His performance was awesome. I loved Chris Olave getting back in the lineup, 6 catches for a couple touchdowns.
Yes.
But, I got to go with the tight ends.
Okay.
I have to.
There you go.
I have to. My old roommate Ben Hartsock would string me up if I didn't, because they just don't get that notoriety very often. But to snag 3 touchdowns in a game of that magnitude, and to I don't want to say come out of nowhere, but in today's high-flying offenses and all the weapons that we have in Wilson and Olave and all these other guys, you just don't see it from the tight ends very often. So both of those guys, my hat's off to them. Great game at the perfect time too, right? Because now Nick Saban and company, they're going to be watching film. They're going to say, full complement of guys. Hopefully our guys can stay healthy and stay off a COVID list this week. Full complement of guys. And they are using everybody. They're running the football. They can beat us on the edge. They can beat us with size over the middle. So I think at the perfect time, those guys are going to make it a little harder to game plan for next.
Yeah, and those
Monday.
play calls were strictly for tight ends too, right? I mean, you're coming over here and letting him slip out the backside. That's for your tight end to make that catch and make that play and get in the end zone.
And tough catches
too.
Yeah, I forget which one of the two it was.
Oh, right through the window. Gosh, I can picture it.
Boxed. Well, that one that was an incredible
Farrell's
throw too. But
Farrell's
touchdown when he literally boxed him out. He's out there
Rucker
playing
was
hoops.
open in the middle. Yeah, no, that was good. Couldn't. When it comes down to them tight ends, I don't know if it's my turn. I'm excited,
turn,
just like everybody else.
Tap in, okay?
We talked about Dabo. That's bulletin board material. That gets my nod. We talked about that defensive line. I'm a defensive line guy, true and true. So I love what they were able to do. And then Justin Fields. Did Justin Fields get anybody? Justin Fields had one of those remarkable superhero days, right? Yep. That he came out of the locker room again, put on. Was just. He's becoming a legacy when it comes down to adversity and being able to be right in the front of it. You seen the grimace when he got on the bike. You seen when he came down to cheering up his guys on the sideline. When it came down to even the offensive lineman seeing that his guys is hurt and making sure that he wasn't on the ground that much longer for the rest of the game. It builds and brings everybody up. I'm going to actually give my Buckeye leaf to the good old offensive line, the good old Hogs. Yep. You mentioned it as a quarterback. Those guys did their thing when it came down to open up them lanes for Trey Sermon, giving our guy giving our guy Justin Fields just some time back there. When our guy Wyatt actually got hurt, his back was getting compressed because he was protecting this guy to make that play to Olave.
After a little hand to
the hands to the face, right? Mm-hmm. So those guys, and then they had our guy and Henry wasn't there. A guy that, had some difficulties, but, somebody that 55, I forgot his name. Matthew Jones got in there and played well. Those guys got coached like no other. They go against the defensive line every day. Iron sharpens iron. Trey Sermon's had an amazing game. It's just fun to talk about, and I'm glad to be able to be a witness of that type of caliber game against Clemson foe.
It wouldn't be Lettermen Live if I didn't talk about Trey Sermon.
Please do.
You got to, please.
He deserves it.
I was waiting for you to bring him up because I didn't want to steal it from you.
Like I said with Justin Fields, you never see a play like that twice in a career. I never thought I would see anything like what Zeke did in the postseason run of 2014. Trey Sermon is ahead of pace for what Zeke did in those postseason games, and he's going to be absolutely critical against Alabama. But the way he's running through contact, the way he fought, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 12, I think were two pickups that he got on the ground. Another one out of the backfield, makes a cut. A Clemson guy falls on the ground. I don't know what else to say about him. I actually exchanged some messages with Tony Alford the other day, just like, hey, man, what did you do to this guy?
Yeah.
It's like, just normal process of coaching and, gave him some small goals that he could reach and incremental progress because he didn't get a normal year. It was an injury. It was no spring ball. COVID, no camp. He didn't get the opportunities. We had talked about that, but I wanted somebody else who was in that building to say it.
That's good.
That the first 3 or 4 weeks it wasn't.
Yeah, he wasn't the same person because he looks like a totally different player, right?
But I'm not saying that he's now the same kind of pro that Zeke could be.
Yeah.
But he is the perfect guy for this offense.
That's good.
And he has elevated Ohio State to a level that you guys all talked about. A bunch of different guys. I don't know how you stop Ohio State on offense.
You never know when it's going to click for somebody. Mm-hmm. And it was exciting that, like you said, he didn't have much time to adjust to this new team.
That's good.
So it's exciting to see him come into his own and do the things he's doing because when we would watch the games and talk about the games, everybody could see, all right, they're kind of running a little tentative. Both of them were, Master Teague and Trey Sermon. It looked like Teague was going more downhill, so, we choose that side. But you watch Trey Sermon now, and he is that missing piece of this Buckeye team. Yeah. He was the big question. I remember the conversations we were having where it was like, okay, we don't have the running back that we're used to over the past 6 years, but we don't really need one because we have the receivers. And now we still have the receivers who have gotten better, and the young guys have gotten better, and Justin Fields has gotten better, and that O-line's holding it down. And now we have a running back who's going out there getting 200-plus yards, 300 yards on really, really good defense.
It's almost like the elephant in the room. My guy, Master Teague, coming off his Achilles injury, everybody has stories on his team, right?
Yeah.
We got Haskell Garrett. We got Justin Fields and the things he did. We got Wade and the Wade family. When Master Teague came back the way that he did and put that rehab on his back, you almost almost had to give him the nod at running back. So when it come down to splitting those carries, we didn't really know what Trey Sermon can do. You know, he's coming in there secondary. You know, that does something to a guy's psychology. But when it come down to when he got the nod, when it wasn't nothing to share, when it's like, hey, this is your rock, he's hurt. That next man, that mentality became to the eating of Zeke. And he's doing almost like Cordell Jones. We wouldn't even know 12 gauge if it wasn't for JK getting hurt. You know what I mean? It doesn't take away the allure of what JK is, but at the end of the day, 12 gauge got some great history for Ohio State. And I think that's what Trey Sermon has done.
Nicole, what else is in your notebook from Friday night?
Just that it was phenomenal, guys. It was so exciting to watch, and like you were saying, it was just. They played so well, and there was so much action. It was a great game to watch. You know, I just felt like each player was in their position where they needed to be. And like you were saying, the offensive line, too. Justin Fields is able to make those passes because the offensive line is, doing their job. So they all just relied on one another. You could absolutely see it the entire game.
All right, so next Monday, Lettermen Live will be on location in Miami. So you're just going to have to zoom in. You can come hang out right here next to this picture of Craig.
I can. I'll sit right there. Yes.
Wherever you want to be. Any more specials going on? What's tomorrow's appetizer?
Tomorrow's Tuesday, so it's the appetizer Tuesday, which is fried mushrooms.
Okay.
Which, those are
There's
good.
some in here,
Those
right
are
here,
good.
yeah.
We brought some out here.
Jay-Z's allergic, I hear. So
Definitely allergic.
I'm not. I'll eat them.
And then just a huge thank you to everyone. We had so many carryouts and people dining in for the game on Friday, so that was it was amazing. It was a great way to bring in the new year. And then, so we'll be doing carryout as well and dining in for our national championship game,
I think you got to give them that early bird discount. I'm just
going
to tell your bosses.
They're discussing it.
Okay.
They are discussing it because it's amazing because we like to offer that for the big games, and it's also to help the kitchen as well. That way, all the orders aren't coming in at 5 o'clock because the kitchen can't. There's only so many fryers, So it was really, really.
People
nice.
don't plan and they order last minute, and then they're mad when it takes a long time. Right?
Yeah. Hey, we get it. That's why we started the early bird. It just kind of, spreads it out a little bit.
All right. Well, the games don't get any bigger than next Monday, but we'll get your score prediction then. You got some time to think about it.
I know. Okay, so I'm gonna say.
You don't have to give it now, Nicole. Just wait for it.
You sure?
Are you ready?
Nope, I'm not.
Yeah. You got another week to cook it up. All right.
Yeah.
We're not going to rush the genius brain over here at work.
I'm telling you guys, I told you I felt good about the Clemson game, and we won.
That's right.
So I did. I felt so good about it, and I was at the game.
Do you feel good
last
about
year.
this game?
I do.
Okay.
I do because you can just see how they all trust one another, and just like you were saying about Trey Sermon, you have to think about that he was spending all of his time with another team, and had to come in and be the new kid, and just learn just the flow of everything, because they've had that all along. So you could just see it this past game.
All right, we're going to let Nicole go do her day job and get out of here. Great
Thanks
insight
for
as
having me,
always.
guys.
Yeah, it's
We're
good
going
to
to take
see
a
you.
quick break, and then we're going to bring in Schlegs for Lettermen Live, brought to you by our friends at Roosters.
Roosters is one of the unique companies that we deal with. They're involved in everything we do, from our personal foundation to also the Cancer Research Fund. And that's from the Buckeye Cruise from Cancer to all the events leading up to the Buckeye Cruise.
They donate back to different organizations that are near and dear to their heart. And we're so fortunate to have been with Roosters now for a long, long time.
All the folks at Roosters are just genuinely kind folks, and they want to make a difference.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
All right, welcome back to Lettermen Live, coming to you from Roosters on Olentangy River, and Schlegs is back.
It's been a while, Schlegs.
We've missed you.
I missed you guys.
Do you have anything to add to the 49-28 beatdown of Clemson and your Buckeye leave? The floor is yours. Welcome back.
All right, welcome back. So I'll just say this. I heard Craig talking about it. The key to the game was the physicality up front from the front seven. We talked about it all the time. I say it all the time in Morning Juice, be the hammer, not the nail. Well, how do you do that? Well, you run the football and you stop the run. 254, I believe, is greater than 44. I wasn't elite at math. No, I'm just kidding. I was.
Slight edge.
I went to the Air Force Academy. But, 254 to 44 sounds like an absolute manhood taking. Mm-hmm. That's what they talked about. Remember, they're blue-collar and corn-fed Midwest dudes that goes out there and take people's manhoods. And that's what happened in that game. So you saw that. I would say they won the turnover margin 2-1. That's fantastic.
That's good.
The defense didn't allow any explosive plays like quick strikes that you saw from the Notre Dame-Alabama game. That's going to be another critical component in this game versus Alabama. They bent and didn't break
in it. Trevor Lawrence got his 400 yards passing. Who cares? Because they're out of the game. I thought Pete Warner and the linebackers did a really good job of controlling Etienne out of the backfield. So that was a big-time deal. What was the last one I had? Do your job. Don't try to do too much. It wasn't, I need to go, pass to Trevor Lawrence. I just need to go do my job and execute. And we saw in the Indiana game, the Northwestern game, where he had some turnovers, try to do too much. And he didn't do that this game. He just let it come to him. Ultimately, the toughness of Justin Fields carried the day because I thought that when he went out and then came back in and his brothers on there knew that there was nothing that was going to stop this young man from winning this football game, and to come in very next play and throw a 9-yard touchdown to Olave, just, it rubs off on his teammates.
That's good.
So, yes, that was big-time ball. I thought the linebacker – so who's giving Buckeye leaves? Well, who's yours?
He went offensive line.
O-line, which is a fantastic –
He went tight ends.
I don't blame him.
I went with the Justins. Hilliard and Fields.
You went with two, John. Okay, so you got two. That's good. That's good.
I didn't give myself one, no.
There's nobody left.
He just picked them based on their name.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
I went interior D-line.
Yeah.
You don't care who I have.
So nobody. Who'd you have?
Trey Sermon.
His guy.
Well, of course. Yeah. Well, then I'll take two, since we were doing that.
Yeah.
They have to have the same name.
I will go Olave. Anybody say Olave?
Nope, that's you, baby.
Well, here you go, man.
Olave.
I mean, because we saw the difference of him coming back from the Northwestern game. Where was he? Well, he was out because of COVID. Poof, David Copperfield, he's back in the lineup, taking the top off people. Plus, it frees up Garrett Wilson, who J-Mo had a touchdown as well.
And the tight ends, everybody.
It just adds a different dynamic to the passing threat. Right. And then I would say on defense, and I know that just Tough Borland got his props because player of the game. Tyreek Smith got his for the for Ohio State in itself. But I'm going to go with Justin Hilliard, but I'm going with him simply for the fact of this. He reminds me a lot of Curtis Grant in 2014.
Yeah.
Right? So Curtis Grant, 2014, 5-star guy. That's not necessarily Justin Hilliard. He's had a lot of injuries.
He was a 5-star guy.
Was he really?
That's why it's been.
It was just so long ago.
Even better. I don't even remember. Yeah, it's been so long ago.
It's been so long. Yeah,
he's been there like me. Like he's going on his doctorate right now. But I'll say this: for a guy, he played I think 700 and some plus snaps on special teams, only 260 snaps of defense coming into the season. And he is playing his best football, just like Curtis Grant, because everybody remembers Curtis Grant. You had Raekwon McMillan. Yeah. Curtis Grant could have went one of two ways. He could have said, no, bump you, I'm going to go get mine. Or I'm going to be your brother, and I'm going to help you, and we're going to go out and win a national championship. And I think that Justin Hilliard has done that, and he's played his best ball of his career in the biggest games this season. And we're going to need him versus Alabama. So Justin, he had a fumble recovery. I believe he had a fumble recovery last week as well. Like the dude's all over the field, and he had that great open field tackle.
He had the interception against Northwestern. You look at the last 2 weeks. We talked about this. Trey Sermon, you had to give him, the MVP of the Northwestern game.
Sure.
Yeah, 330.
But that's why it's unfortunate there wasn't a defensive MVP because he should have won it that week. And then I don't know who voted in the Sugar Bowl because I didn't. And Tough Borland get that one. You look at the last 2 weeks, like Justin Hilliard deserved a little piece of individual hardware.
Right.
But I know he's not playing it. Yeah.
We're giving it to him.
There you go.
Here you go.
Here's
your hardware.
Look at this little potato skin that looks like a little football.
$2 fried mushrooms.
There you go.
Assuming that he doesn't come back for year 7, he can come hang out on Lettermen Live in a couple weeks, and we'll give him all the Roosters that he can handle now that he'll be allowed to take it from us. You guys have all kind of touched on this, and then going to the medical tent and what happened with Justin Fields. There was this narrative on Saturday and Sunday, like, oh my goodness, how did Ohio State not tell him what was wrong? Or did they not give him the option? To me, it was irritating because Justin Fields never wants to talk about his injury, so I don't know why anyone expected he would give a private medical diagnosis right immediately after the game or ahead of the national championship game to let Alabama know exactly where to hit him. Do you guys see anything wrong with the way it happened, or take us through what that process is like for a guy trying to get through a game?
I'll say, first of all, we don't know what they did in the tent or in the locker room or anything like that. So, it's fun to speculate. I mean,
yes, we do.
I don't think it takes much. I know how I was in college. I don't think it takes much to convince a guy to do what it takes to get back on the field, especially in a game like that. Unless if that young man's lung was punctured, he would not have gone back on the field. But if you're capable of playing and they tell you, hey, you're not going to make it worse, it's just going to hurt really bad, then, it sucks, but you could see Justin Fields cared enough, and then they'll help you out maybe a little bit at halftime with whatever ways they help you out. But I think
It's the old, like, are you hurt or are you injured?
I don't know what we're allowed to say and what we're not allowed to say. But they help you out.
You didn't put a needle on anybody. It was just, are you hurt or are you injured?
Yeah,
can you continue to play? Can you not?
Exactly,
right?
and they'll ask you that question. Do you think you can go?
Yeah.
And that's, as a 21-year-old, 22-year-old, you got to make a decision like, hey, what's this worth? It's not going to be like, hey, your spleen is ruptured. Would you like to continue playing? If it was that serious, he wouldn't play. But to see him fight through what we all know had to have hurt. He had a brick wall right into that single spot.
Crown of the
to
helmet,
see him fight through that and be able to come out in the second half probably feeling much better than what he was feeling when he threw that touchdown. But, it's a testament. Those are the things that bring teams together. Those are the things that give a team a common cause. And, when a leader puts out a sacrifice like that, it just rallies everybody together.
That's real good.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Justin Fields also knows he's top 5, top 10 pick, maybe the number 2 quarterback off the board in a few months. So there's a lot of if he felt that he was in any kind of danger, he's got to balance that. My future versus the now. But what I think his teammates love about him, I know it's what I love about him, is he's very into the now.
That's good.
So, I don't think that there was any and we don't need to know.
Yeah.
We can speculate. Was it some cartilage torn off the rib? Is it a slight crack in the rib? I broke a rib once in New York when I was playing for the Bears. And I can tell you after halftime, I didn't feel anything for about 6 hours. My big concern with Justin Fields, and Zwick and I were talking about this morning, is how much practice time is he going to be able to get between now and next Monday? Because I can guarantee you he'll be fine next Monday too.
Yeah.
But what is he going to get on the practice field between now and then? And are we going to see him having to take a series or two and shake off a little rust? Because whatever they're going to give you to make you feel better for a game, Schlegs, they don't give it to you for practice.
Yeah, it's real. I would say, one, I don't understand why people believe that they are owed some type of explanation as to what goes on.
Right.
Like, bump you. Like, who the hell are you?
It's probably Dabo starting.
I think there's just a lot of haters that we had going into that game.
A lot of questions.
And then they thought we were going to get beat because everybody picked us to get beat, right?
Everybody.
Every expert. So I think you have these experts who were kind of.
You did?
I said I did it.
Oh, I was going to say. Oh, yeah. Well,
he's talking
you're
about the
a special
national-
kind of
We're not-
expert.
we're not experts.
Everybody at this table last week picked Ohio
We're
State.
all
to win.
experts. Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
we're
no
the best.
doubt. But I think you just have those people coming out of the woodwork saying, well, I'm butthurt because I picked them to lose and they didn't, and this is the reason
Well,
why.
here's the other thing, too. Like, the doctors are there to save you from yourself. Like,
good.
let's go back. Mike, you remember John Simon, 2012. Listen, John's
I was
knee
gonna say that story.
John's
Go ahead.
knee
Let these
Out of
people
nowhere,
know,
no-
man.
was so big and so full of fluid, and they drained it before, and they waited to the last moment, and John was like, I'm going to play.
Yeah.
And they said, no, John, you are not going to play.
That's
Gross.
good.
Like, that's what they do. Like, we always have the option. Like, there's so much that you can play for or play with and play through. Now, to the level at which that you could do that, it's predicated upon your pain tolerance. But in that situation with John, it would have been a health concern because he would not be able to protect himself in the game.
Yeah,
and he would
that's
probably
what
have done more damage. So that's what the medical experts are there to do. They're going to give you your best option. Like, hey, here's what's going to happen. Here's how we can take care of some of the side effects. There's no structural damage or anything that's life-threatening, et cetera, et cetera. You still have the ownership as to whether or not you play or don't.
I'd also like to say, it feels like sometimes people forget that in my opinion, a vast majority of football is playing through pain.
That's good.
And so,
Who hasn't been injured
Oh, my God.
on this
played through
panel?
So many times.
I mean, honestly, everybody, the game of football
Not
is
even
100%
just been
certain.
injured,
Yeah.
but played
Played
injured,
injured,
played
yeah.
injured,
There's
played
probably
hurt.
100%
100%.
certainty that if you
Yeah.
play the game of football
Yeah.
at a high level,
Right.
you have played through an injury.
so that it always kills me when people are like, "Oh my God, that this person, I don't know how they went on," like, because that's what you do as a football player, and as he's obviously gonna get more. People see him more. He's the guy. He's Justin Fields, the starter of Ohio State. So when he gets hurt, it's more visible.
Right.
But I mean, he understands that as his role as a football player and as a leader of men, you've got to play through that pain.
That's good.
Because, you don't see it as much as a fan. But in that locker room, there's a lot of respect and stuff that goes on where you got to earn the respect of your peers. You got to earn the respect of your coaches. Coaches have to earn the respect of their players. And a lot of ways you do that is by playing through pain, and specifically playing through pain that people don't expect you to play through.
That's real good.
I think we're seeing that as well. When you talk about, obviously the quarterback is the poster boy of that, and that's who you pay attention to. Wyatt Davis left the Michigan State game up the tunnel on crutches. He had to leave for a stretch against Northwestern. Obviously, something is wrong with his knee. He got knocked out he went to that tent on Friday night as well.
That's gritty.
I would bet a lot of money that after next Monday night, he will not be doing any combine workouts. He will be getting a surgery on his knee. I don't know. I haven't asked him specifically what's wrong, but that's another example of if it's something you can manage, something you can play through, then Ohio State will help you get through that. So he's obviously not practicing a lot. Wyatt Davis, he's got nothing else to prove. He'd already opted out once when he thought there wasn't going to be a year. He wants to win a national championship, and he's willing, as you guys all have said, to play through that pain to get there.
This is a beautiful, energetic way that last year transpired to this one. I mean, you got our guy Trevor Lawrence to get hit by Wade. Wade is out the game. Then we got a big hit against Fields, and then that guy is out the game, and obviously things just shift. But the legacy piece that Justin Fields just provided for himself, and then we go back to the last time he played against the team up north. He is cementing himself into the history of Ohio State, and I love it. And like everybody said on this panel, we know how our players and our boys is feeling on that sideline. When Justin Fields got off the sideline when he was grimacing, guys got out of his way. Guys patted him on the back really gently, just understanding that he's going through something, and we kind of rally behind that and keep it moving. Yeah, it's a nice rub.
That's what it feels like.
Well, someone patted him on the back, and he was like, "Come on!" They had him on the camera where he said something that was not very receptive to that pat on the back.
Please leave me alone.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Please, that was incredible. I mean, and we could keep going. When we talked about the Buckeye leaves, there's so many guys that you could still name. Forget who brought up Matthew Jones. Doug did. He's stepping in for Harry Miller.
He did fantastic. And then you got Paris Johnson.
Paris Johnson
Jr. Absolutely pancaking people.
He did.
You had the freshman running back Williams. Is that his name?
Yeah,
the guy that looks like he's 26 years old through his helmet. I was like, "Dad, go!"
Super arms.
He's a freshman.
He's running people over.
5'8", 230.
Yeah,
is that what he is?
His legs are the size of his table.
5'5", 230.
Dang.
Yeah.
But they put him out there in a key situation. Julian Fleming, Jackson Smith, and Jigba had a big third down catch.
That D tackle number 6. I don't know his name, but
Teron Vincent.
Man, he came in and played. Definitely inside.
In the fourth quarter, they put in Cormonte Hamilton. He was filling in at defensive end.
Latham had a big play in the end zone.
He knocks the ball free that goes to Sevin Banks for the interception. Sevin Banks, I thought he was the best cornerback on the field for Ohio State in that game.
Yeah.
So he's coming along. I mean, you could just keep going. And Marcus Williamson, Doug, you brought him up on special teams. That was they shifted him, and he played a little bit more. It seemed like a too high safety look. Maybe Schlegel can break down that for me more. But
I don't know.
They were shifting him around and playing different roles. But
by that point,
they just did so many things, and everybody had to contribute to that win.
It's interesting. We're sitting here, we're talking about all these different players, right? And we just talked earlier about how places like Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, it's always next man up mentality. Right, somebody's out, somebody's down, somebody can't play, whether it's an injury, whether it's COVID. All right, who's up next? I don't care if you're a freshman. This is what we expect from you. And what we haven't talked about at all today is hats off to Ryan Day and his coaching staff.
There you go.
Right, because they get these guys here, and then to put that game plan together to motivate them, right? It shouldn't be that hard to motivate your guys for a game like that, but to have the level of maturity that you see out of this football team to overcome, everything they've had to overcome this year. Hey, by the way, you haven't played in 2 weeks and you're playing, Saturday. And just people don't realize that you get out of the rhythm of a season. Everyone's talking about how, Ohio State's only played 6 games, 7 games. There's a downside to that. And there's a downtime to that I think Ryan Day and his entire staff, the way they had those guys ready to play Friday, the way I anticipate them having them ready to play Monday, it's going to be fun to watch.
That's real good.
Michael, you went through this after that Sugar Bowl, and you have the turnaround for the national championship. You guys put so much emphasis on Alabama and upset, making history. The motivation, we saw that with the 11th ranked in Clemson and all that. How do you duplicate that? I know that the challenge is pretty similar from Alabama as it was to Clemson and Oregon. You knew you were probably going to win that game once you got past it. But how do you duplicate that same feeling of everything that you poured into last week and do that this week?
I don't think that would be difficult at all. I think, honestly, after they beat Clemson, especially the way they did, it sounds crazy. I don't think there's a question in my mind that they're going to beat Alabama. The confidence that gives you, the togetherness that gives you, and the confidence that like your teammates feel in you and you feel in your teammates. That's the kind of thing that teams that are already great and talented and disciplined need to get to that next level. I think that underdog mentality that they went into against Clemson probably was very similar to the underdog mentality we had against Alabama. It's not necessarily that you feel you're the underdog, it's that you feel that you are better than that team and nobody's giving you credit for it. And I think that's one of the things that fueled them against Clemson. And then once you prove that, not only did you prove that to everybody else, you just prove that to yourselves and your squad and everybody in that locker room. And it's hard to describe. I know you guys have all felt it. It's hard to describe how much that, like, what state that puts your mind in, where it's like, all right, well, now we just got to keep doing what you trust the process, you trust your players, you trust yourself because you went and probably had a good game because the majority of the guys on that field had a good game. And then people are telling you, oh, you're going to get torched by Alabama. Alabama's going to get torched by us. And that's the kind of thing where, any given whatever Monday night, any given Monday night, I think Ohio State is going to win that national championship, and I don't really think it's close specifically because of the mentality that you get from beating somebody who has been on the top of the mountain for a long time.
I hope you're right.
I just remember from the 14, I'd like to hear your comment playing an underdog versus Miami, Craig, but I just remember that game, and it was 42-35, and I remember when we walked out and we saw them, it was like, Alabama had a bunch of really big, physical-looking dudes, but that were kind of stiff. And it was like we were big and physical, but athletic.
That's real good.
And I think Alabama is a little bit different, but I will say the physicality of which we dominated Clemson definitely carries over because that's a mindset. And then if you have nothing to prove, you'll never improve. And I think that's kind of been the thing throughout this season. It's like, okay, you had Indiana, you had Northwestern, you had Clemson in the number 11 ranking, of which I thought our guys did a really good job not talking about that before the game.
That's real good.
And Justin Fields actually said, I'm not going to comment on that. Right? That was a very mature thing to do. Now, even though some of the guys went on Twitter and absolutely did that, everybody loved it. That's great. It's a different story. But, like, again, to the media, they didn't.
They wanted to.
Yeah, but you know what they did, and here's the thing: when you go and you win that game like that, it definitely focuses you on what I thought Coach Meyer did at an elite level that year, and it was the mission. Remember that? Like it was like he had the helicopters and they were playing in the Woody the entire time. It was like focus on the mission. Like you remember this blaring. It was basically what's that daggone Vietnam movie where Charlie Sheen's dad's in it. Yeah, Apocalypse Now. And it was just that music all the time in the Woody. Like that one. It was crazy stuff. Anyway, so they go. And so we knew what we had to do versus Alabama. And then when we played Oregon, it was 16. Like that was the thing you had to eliminate. They will get them to focus on the one thing that they have to do to beat Alabama. And for defensively for Ohio State, it was blow up 16, which is that's how fast Oregon ran the ball or ran a play. They'll find something else to focus on for Alabama, and that will be the key. The defensive coaches believe to stop Alabama and vice versa on offense. So that's how you get 18 and 22-year-olds locked in on that. And then coming off that win, they understand now that if I just go do what these coaches tell me to do and execute at a high level and just do my job,
the process,
we got a chance to win. Absolutely.
When it comes down to Alabama, I mean, their proof is in the pudding. I mean, they've been there every year. They've been very, very consistent. So at the end of the day, when you got Najee Harris, when you got Mac, they got two Heisman, Devontae, they got Heisman people. So when it comes down to bulletin board materials, those guys are already favored. They're already in the national conversation. I mean, he's an AP Player of the Year. So when it comes down to getting guys geared up like Seven Banks, Sean Wade didn't have maybe to get the best game, right? He was on his spent around a few times, but at the end of the day, they all did their jobs, and it's going to be awesome to see these guys get prepared this 10-day time that they have just to go out there and really perform Buckeye football.
They're going to be dogs again too.
Oh yeah,
I mean, so they're going to have that motivation going into the game, but. I think when you get to this point in the season, whether you got 30-plus days off like we did or 10 days off.
Forget about that.
Right? You get to a point where, we've all been on the one side of the field, so to speak, in terms of, they're going to play Monday night and end of the month, early February. The underclassmen, what are they doing, Schlegs?
Oh, they're
going back to work.
Let's go. Oh, yeah, as soon as they get
so
back
they're
in,
starting in February, end of January. You get a couple weeks off, guess what? Back to work. And you start in February, and you train, and you got 6 a.m.s, and you're working your tail off all winter. You go through spring ball, hopefully. Go through summer conditioning where you are – so, Schlegs, you've been on the other side of this where you're beating the crap out of these guys, and they do it all for one reason, and that reason is Monday night.
That's real good.
They're going to be ready. Yep. There's no way that – I mean, yeah, you're underdogs. You just come off this big win. Can you motivate yourself? Everything that these guys do year-round is for the moment to even have that opportunity that they're going to have Monday night.
Yep.
So when they get there, they're going to be ready.
And let's not forget the last time these two teams played, what happened, right? I mean, you just got past the Clemson team that the last 4 times you played, you weren't able to beat.
That's good.
You know, so you're going up against them. You've heard all this stuff. You're not going to win. You're not going to win. We just went and took care of business. Right. Their confidence went to here. Now they're playing a team in Alabama, which everybody loves, everybody has for the last 10 years. It is what it is.
Rightfully so.
Yes, 100%. But the last time we were on the field with them, we took care of business when we weren't supposed to. So I think that might be a little confidence, a little something in the back of our guys' mind saying, we've taken care of these guys before. You know, we got over that hump that we hadn't. Now we just got to finish the job.
All right, Nicole's prediction is going to wait until next week's on location down in Miami, but you guys, you have to do it now.
She's going on location?
No, she's zooming in.
How do we get on that?
I'm trying to go.
Come on, Will. How do we get on that?
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that out loud. But we're sneaking Nicole down on a credential. Who's going to win next Monday night? Schlegs, you started.
Oh, crap on a stick. I was just doing
Doug, you started.
I got it, man. I get it. So my take on when it comes down to this matchup is going to be phenomenal. It's going to be one of those, big hitting games. I mean, they have players on both sides. I'm going to say as far as my Buckeyes, they're going to give up 24 points. And they're going to get 37 points. So I feel like it's going to be one of those things where it's not as close as it seems. They're going to be like maybe some late touchdowns to kind of get a little bit closer. But I think we dominate. I think we come out, pretty strong on all facets of the game. Yeah. When it comes down to special teams, I think we keep them inside the 20. I think our defensive line proves again that we're going to stop the run. Najee Harris will be a different beast. That Alabama offensive line are big, thick guys, and they're on the watch list for the best offensive line in the country, rightfully so, as we said. But it's just something about this aura in this team. What they had to go through in the beginning of the season, having 2020 be the way that they kind of present themselves as leaders, and they had to, Kevin Warren was the first person to try to stop them. Then it was, Dabo saying, that they're not should be if they don't have 6. It was just so much adversity these guys had to go against. I think they're going to be able to play football again one more time. We're going to get some more depth at the defensive line. Zach Harrison back, hopefully. Just a lot of greatness to be in Miami, and I'm going to try to go. I need a ticket. Thank you.
Give me the over. That's all I can say is
I'm not sure they can make it high enough.
Yeah, right.
The over. I like 52-45 Buckeyes. It's going to be a high-scoring game. I mean, there's too many weapons on the field for both of these offenses. Nick Saban has always prided himself at Alabama on having the best defense in the country. Not even close this year. Not even close. They're going to be ready. They're going to have a scheme because he is one of the best coaches in college football history.
Absolutely.
But they don't have the players. They just don't have the guys. And conversely, our defense is playing great. I hope our defensive line and our front seven does what they did on Friday. But there's a whole other level of weapons that we're going to be seeing defensively too. So I expect a lot of points on the board in this game.
Yeah, you got to think 3 out of the top 5 players in college football, based on, by somebody who votes, are on Alabama's offense. So I mean that is a whole different challenge. Except just trying to stop Lawrence last week and some of his playmakers. It's a different ball game. They've kind of changed, though. It used to be the dominant defense, Nick Saban to keep them in the game. They had a quarterback that was serviceable, and they had a running back. They've switched it. They're just scoring points like crazy now, in which they've given up a lot of points. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, like Craig said. And, I'm going to go 41-38. Last-second field goal, maybe, at the end of the national championship. Go Buckeyes! Yes!
I like both of those.
Walk-off? Walk-off game?
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but I think we hold on and keep them from kicking that field goal.
Blake Hobby will come on down.
I like both of those scores. Everything they're saying is on point. Doug scored 2.
Thank you.
I don't know, man. These teams are so similar. I think that Alabama might. Man, these teams are too similar. Yeah. Both of them have great run defense, struggle a little bit in the pass defense. Both have great quarterbacks, receivers, running back, and offensive lines. You don't know what's going to be the separator. I don't know anything about Alabama's tight ends. I think our tight ends are pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm going to have to go somewhere. Let's go 50. 59.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't want to go 59, but everything in between that. Let's go with 40. Let's go with 40. 52.
40-52.
40-52.
59, 40, 52.
To 49.
Did I hear a Niner in there? Are you
bless.
calling from a walkie-talkie?
Sound like a phone number.
I just want to say 50s to 40s.
Yeah.
But I got
50s to 40s. Okay.
I'm with you.
Is that what you said?
50s to 40s. I'm going with
50s to 40s.
Somewhere, win by 3, somewhere in the vicinity of 40 to 50.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And that could go from 40 all the way to 59. Somewhere in there,
I
win by 3.
like Michael's odds the best.
Yeah, I mean,
Out of all of us,
can I change mine? 30 to 50.
I'm gonna text Bennett
We're
next
in
Monday. Buddy, did you figure out a score yet?
we win by 1 to 17.
I'll settle at 45 to 39.
There you go.
All right,
All
good.
right.
I said 40. I'm going with 45, 42. I think it's going to come down to whether it's a, second quarter, end of the half field goal. I just, with what they did in the red zone, that was the difference in this Clemson game.
Yeah.
They scored in the red zone,
with tight ends.
versus last year where they had 3
They
field
were
goals.
0-3, right? Yeah.
And that's the difference. So they're going to have to do that this week. It's basically the same blueprint versus Clemson versus Alabama.
That is good.
So I'm going to go with 45-42.
I like
Buckeyes.
I told you guys last week I didn't have any doubts that Ohio State was going to beat Clemson, and then I would think about January 11th once they got there.
Yes.
I wasn't sure. But
You're
that
right.
was Ohio State at its best, and that team can beat anybody.
Yep.
And they will next Monday night, 42-35.
I like
that
it.
strikes a chord with anybody who's been a part of this game before.
I like it.
We'll be there. Lettermen Row will be down there for full coverage of the Buckeyes and Alabama. Can't wait for that national title. Didn't think we were going to get any games at all in August. Now Ohio
Boom,
State's
how about
right
it, huh?
for a national title
Go Bucks,
in South
baby.
Florida. Appreciate Nicole Cox for having us in. Doug Worthington, Craig Krenzel, Justin Zwick, Michael Bennett,
Lettermen's
Anthony
Row.
Schlegel. I am just Austin Ward. We will see you next week down in Miami.